Good evening.
1.4 million.
My name is Brutus Canareggi, and I am your town moderator. We have some folks, just to procedure-wise, we have some folks over in the gym tonight because of a good crowd. So, Jim, can you hear me over there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So at this time, I'm going to declare that the warrant has been duly posted and published, and that the reading of the warrant is waived. So I'd like to welcome you all to our town meeting. It's a great event. I see a lot of things where folks haven't been to a town meeting before. They don't know this form of government, but this is one of the oldest forms of government, people self-governing themselves. You all get to participate tonight. You get to change. You get to make comments. You get to vote on it. So embrace it. Also realize this is a really old form of government, so it takes a little time, okay? So patience is all appreciated by everybody. So thank you for coming. I always like to thank the veterans that served our country so we can have a town meeting like this. I'd like to introduce our state officials over here. We have Representative James Arena DeRosa, I'm sorry. Thank you, sir. And we also have Representative Marcus Vaughn. I'd also like to recognize the select board in the town of Millis. Maybe some folks don't know. These folks are volunteers. Okay, they put all this time and effort into them, what they do. So I'd like to recognize them. We have Craig Schultz as the chairman, or chairperson, I'm sorry. Vice Chair is Ellen Rosenfeld. Field. And Aaron Underhill. Also, our town government is Mike Jasinski, the town administrator. And I also like to recognize Carol Johnson. She's the numbers lady. She's very, very good with working the numbers. Our longtime town clerk, Lisa Harden, down front. Our town council is Jason Tallerman. I admit it, I might have to ask that man questions because he's the expert, and I ain't going to make it up, so I will be using him as needed. Our finance committee, our chairperson is Jonathan Lohr. Our vice chair is Mike Crone. He's not here. Oh, he's not here, I'm sorry. We have Peter Underhill, Joyce Moriarty, Jody Garzone, Peter Berube, Kathy McGinnis, Sarah Reyes, and Jen. Thank you. And the other two people I'd like to thank that make all this happen in the rooms, we obviously have a lot of meetings before we do this, Susan Vera and Kathy Smith, and all her volunteers, everybody that's out there taking care of us. And I'd also like just to recognize, I know there's a lot of folks in the town, that we have the educators from town of Millis, we have the Millis Police, we have Millis Fire, and we probably have some public works folks here. So they all work for you, and they appreciate everything you do for them. So tonight, I required assistance of a couple of deputy moderators for this meeting, and one of them would be Jim McCaffrey, who's working over the gym, and then also Nathan Maltinsky. So I'd like to nominate those two folks. Would anybody second that nomination? Motion made second. All those in favor of such appointment, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. There are a few items on the warrant that require a 2/3 majority vote. Normally, I would have a standing count for such votes. But if with the assistance of this body, I can be authorized to declare an obvious 2/3 vote. So I'd like to make that motion. Second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. So I'm just going to go over a couple rules for general rules for town meeting. Obviously, they're covered by local bylaws and the state laws.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
We need to vote in this room, too. Our folks were not aware of the fact that they were voting. So could you please restate the motion?
Sorry. I forgot to ask. You need both of them?
Well, we need to have the motions restated, please. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm
for the
sorry.
delay.
This is why I need assistance. Let's see. Motion. Normally, I would have a standing count such votes, but if the absent of body, I can be authorized to declare an obvious two-thirds majority vote. It was seconded. You guys are good.
Oh, see. In the hall here, all those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously in the gymnasium.
Thank you. Okay. So we're going to have what we call motions off the warrant. The first motion, each article will generally be made. Yes? I was going to get to that. Thank you. I just wanted to do that after we got through the rules, get everybody in the right frame. I will explain procedures as needed and will recognize requests for points of order. The first motion for each article will generally be made by the Finance Committee. Those who make motions will have the first opportunity to explain their motion. All comments and questions shall come through me, the moderator. What that means is you ask the moderator to speak, you don't speak directly to FinCom, or you don't speak to anybody else in the audience, and I will recognize you. I ask you to please come up to the mic up front. No yelling from the background. There's folks at home that want to watch this. There's folks over there that need to hear it, so please speak into the mic. And you also need to give your name and address. Motions and motions to amend generally must be in writing, provided that for ministerial collectoral corrections, I will accept friendly amendments and will help the procedures of the writing. I will try to be balanced discussion as well as I can. Everybody will have a chance to speak on a matter, but at a certain point, I want to avoid repetitions, and I would ask that you do the same. What that means is if you had a question about the cost of a particular truck and it's been answered, we don't need to keep asking about the cost of a particular truck again. So we kind of want to move it along. But please feel free to come up and express what you like to do. Generally speaking, I'll allow 3 minutes to make your motion or to discuss the item at hand. 2 minutes a second time at the mic. But don't be surprised if I hurry you along. I may allow someone with new info to speak a third time, but by law, I may limit that speaker also. There are some excellent topics on the warrant tonight. There's also some boring ones, but we have to go through all of them, okay? I hope that we have a spirited debate, and I hope this meeting both supports and challenges the issues at hand. Once again, this is your time to be heard. However, I expect all comments to be civil and respectful. These are all our neighbors here. You all live together. You all work around here. We have different opinions. That's what's great about being American. So respect each other's opinion. You don't necessarily have to agree with them. Comments should not be personal, and they should not be directed towards an individual. In other words, be kind to your neighbor. We have many local officials between me and everybody else that should be able to answer your questions, that we'll try to. I will ask for a voice vote. No shouting. Shouting doesn't count more, okay? If you cannot discern a result, I may ask for a show of hands. If we still can't get that, then we have to do, we'll do a standing, okay? One other thing that always comes up, I respect the call of a question or a motion. What that means is we might still be debating it, and someone says, I want to move it, we just take a vote right then and there, okay? With that said, if I decide to do it, anybody that's lined up at a mic that wants to speak, I'm going to allow them to speak before we vote, okay? If I think it's premature, I'm not going to allow it. Similarly, if I'm hearing a lot of the same comments, I may abbreviate the debate and on my own call for a vote. I'm not going to accept a motion to take articles out of order. So what that means is if you want to hear Article 18 before Article 4, it ain't happening. We're going in order the way the selectmen put it together. I think we can have an excellent town meeting, so thank you. And now, at this time, I'd like to rise, pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jim, are you all set in the gym?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, sir.
if you give me a minute, I want to explain the rules for voting in this room.
Thank you.
I have a lot of people who've just come in.
Okay.
I mean, the voting rules as well as the rules for speaking to the town meeting. So if you give me a moment.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
Good to go.
Thank you very much. I'd like to open with the chairman of the FinCom, Mr. Jonathan Lohr.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is John Lohr, and I am the current chair of the Millis Finance Committee. The Finance Committee, as the moderator has just stated, is composed of 9 members. Finance Committee members serve 3-year rotating terms. Every year, the few positions become available, and the town moderator appoints a resident for the next 3-year term. If you are looking to get involved with the Finance Committee, please stop by Town Hall or send us an email. Before we get into the warrant and the articles, I'd like to take a moment to recognize someone who has made a dramatic impact to our town. Over the last few months, throughout all the Finance Committee meetings, we've had the chance to listen to various departments about their budgets, needs, and accomplishments. We wanted to take a moment to recognize the Millis Recreational Department, and specifically Aaron LeBlanc, who is the Teen Program Coordinator. Aaron is the 2024 winner of the Massachusetts Recreation and Park Association's Community Professional of the Year Award. This award is given to a member of the MRPA that has provided outstanding service and dedication to their community and continues to improve the field of park and recreation. Millis Rec Serves is a teen volunteer program. Aaron created the Millis Rec Serves program and has grown to over 100 teen volunteers. This program promotes community good and giving back. This past year, Millis Rec Serves logged in over 700 hours of volunteer service. Aaron has also helped to turn Millis Recreation into one of the most inclusive programs in the state. She is completely invested in the teens that she works with and promotes activities that are healthy and will give them lifelong learning skills. Thank you, Aaron, and congratulations. In addition, I want to recognize Carol Johnson, the Millis Finance Director. She has been with the town for 6 years and has provided professional and financial guidance to the town and the various committees. Thank you. Over the last 5 months of the year, basically from January through May, we have had 10 meetings, essentially every Wednesday. Throughout these meetings, most of the departments have presented their existing budgets, their fiscal year 2025 budget projections, their highlights and accomplishments for fiscal year 2024, and their future needs for fiscal year 2025. I want to thank the Select Board, School Committee, town administrators who have provided financial details and municipal guidance throughout the entire process. We will be voting on 22 articles tonight. All town articles are important, but there are 2 articles that are extremely important. Article 3, fiscal year 25 operating budget, and Article 4, supplemental to the fiscal year 25 budget, Proposition 2.5 override. Our goal as Finance Committee is to review the town's budget, understand the needs of each department, recommend and vote on each article as a committee, and present each article to the town meeting, and then have the residents vote on each article. So with that said, let's review the articles and start off with Article number 1 with Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $328.86 and transfer the sum of $195.72 from sewer enterprise reserves, transfer the sum of $195.72 from water enterprise reserves, for the total sum of $720.30 for unpaid bills incurred by the town departments from previous fiscal years. Mr. Moderator, would you care for me to name each department?
No, I do not.
A 4/5 majority vote is required.
A motion has been made. Is there a second? Motion is made and second. Actually, is there any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator, this article, if approved, is a semi-annual article to fund bills incurred in the previous fiscal years. The bill for this town meeting totals $720.30 and will be funded from free cash, sewer, and water enterprises. These bills occurred after the close of the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. The Finance Committee recommends approval of this article unanimously.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this? Jim, is there any discussion in the gym?
Mr. Moderator, no.
Thank you. Motion been made and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Jim?
Motion carries unanimously in the auditorium.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Does anybody find it erotic that I say Jim to Jim and they're in the gym? Just wondering.
Make it easier for me to understand where I am.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
just as a request, it's hard to hear in the gymnasium sometimes, so if we could ask the speakers really to speak loudly into the mic, that would be very helpful.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
I move the town vote to dismiss Article 2.
Is there any discussion on this?
Mr. Moderator. This article is a placeholder in case if any additional expenses are incurred after the last spring town meeting. No expenses are incurred. Therefore, the Finance Committee voted unanimously to dismiss this article.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the gym, Jim?
No, sir.
Thank you. Do I have a second? There we go. Oh, yeah.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Jim?
Motion carries unanimously in the gym.
Motion carries unanimously here also. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to fix the compensation of elected officers, provide for a reserve fund, and to raise and appropriate, including appropriations from taxation and by transfer from available funds, all as specified below, the sum of $43,827,557 to defray charges and expenses to the town, including debt and interest, and a reserve fund for the general fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, as outlined in Table 2 of the Finance Committee report with the following revenue sources. Taxation, $41,914,320. Ambulance fund, $822,519. Perpetual care interest, $332. Sale of cemetery lots, $7,358. Cell tower revenue, $56,334. Bond premium release, $90,198. Marijuana impact fees, $189,780. And to authorize the following transfers. Sewer fund indirect cost to the general fund, $259,775. Water fund indirect cost to the general fund, $317,503. Stormwater fund indirect cost to the general fund, $169,438. This article requires a simple majority vote. The Finance Committee recommends approval of this article 7-1.
Second.
A motion has been made and second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Lord.
for Article 3, if approved, this article appropriates funding necessary to operate the town of Millis for fiscal year 2025, FY25. The town's fiscal year runs from July 1st through the June 30th. These are the town revenues and transfers that are calculated for each fiscal year for the town of Millis. This $43.8 million budget is a balanced budget of revenues and expenses for the town. As a reminder, this does not include any of the override items. In Article 4, this budget does not include an additional position for the fire department. It does not include an additional position for the Department of Public Works. It does not include 2 additional positions for the police department. And last, it does not include any additional funding for the Millis schools. What the balanced budget does include are the following school positions that would be cut to balance the school and the town budget. Clyde Brown School, 2 kindergarten paraprofessionals, 1 reading specialist, 1 technology teacher, 1 Spanish assistant, 1 reading tutor, 1 math tutor, 0.2 art teacher. Middle school, 1 ELA teacher, another ELA teacher at 1 math teacher, 1 math interventionist, 0.4 TV production teacher, 0.2 PE teacher. And for the high school, 1 English teacher, 1 bridge counselor, 1 PE teacher, 0.6 TV production teacher, 0.2 Spanish teacher, 0.2 VHS teacher. VHS stands for virtual high school. Point of clarification, school positions are designated as full-time equivalents. A full-time position would be 1.0. Part-time position would be less than 1, such as 0.4 or 0.2. All these full-time equivalent positions equal 15.8. To refresh our memories, last year at the annual town meeting for fiscal year 24, there was a $938,697 school deficit. This was voted on and funded from free cash, $538,000, and the stabilization fund of $400,000. And the school still cut $729,357 from their budget, resulting in 7 staff layoffs. The Select Board stated last year at town meeting this is a one-time fix, and they would not do it again in future years. This funding would provide 1 more year of time and determine if state aid, revenues, expenses would improve for fiscal year 25. Well, they haven't. The $400,000 borrowed from the stabilization fund has been paid back, which is important for the long-term financial health of the town. Fast forward to now, both the municipal and the school budget have incrementally increased over the last 12 months. However, the town is now at a point where the school cuts are necessary to balance the town's fiscal year 2025 budget.
Thank you. Is there anybody from the audience like to speak on this? Please come forward to the mic. Jim, I'd also like to remind folks in the gymnasium that they'd like to speak, they need to come over here at the mic. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Seda. I live on 11 Timberline Road.
Thank you.
Pull this thing out. Okay. I didn't want to screw anything up and be liable to pay for it. I'm just messing around. I'm blessed to live here in Millis. What I see, though, here is there's no excuse for deficits when we have the school, a brand new, beautiful building that wonderful people put their hearts, minds, and souls into, just standing there idle at nighttime. I think we should put an motion in place to provide continuing education at nighttime and rent these rooms out to independent contractors. If we rent it out, for example, 20 rooms a month at $1,000, we can offset these costs.
Sir, I appreciate your thoughts on how to raise revenue, but what we're voting on is a budget that's been presented right now.
I just think that before presenting this budget and then a tax increase to pay for it, we should really kind of think and analyze on whether we should push this increase through without having alternative options in place for us. That's it. I don't want to say anything else. God bless you all. God bless the law enforcement. Though I do want to add one thing. I serve on the ministry of St. Vincent de Paul at St. Joseph's Roman Catholic Church. And increasing taxes is going to hurt food costs, and a lot of lower income families that I.
So we're not, once again, we're talking about the budget at hand. This is not about the proposed tax
But
increase.
it's going to come through our
It's
tax
going to be our
increase.
next thing we're going to talk about.
Just putting it out there.
Thank you, and I appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you. Does anybody else like to speak on the budget as presented? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Linda Sabrowski, 13 Cedar Street. I don't know if this is appropriate time to say this, but I just wanted to put out there that there is a capital expense that's coming very, very soon. It's the high school. And to keep that all in mind, please, when you vote.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on the budget as presented? If you'd like to speak in order to move things along, just don't be afraid to come up and get in line. Thank you.
Kevin McCarthy, Exchange. Kevin McCarthy, Exchange Street.
Yes, sir.
I hear that we're cutting school positions, but I hear nothing of townwide positions being cut. I mean, why cut the schools and not cut somebody over there at Town Hall? There could be one or two people that we could get rid of there and keep a teacher. I mean,
Would someone like to address that?
is that been thought of, or is it?
Let me get you an answer. Mr. Schultz?
Thank you. The cuts that were put in place were put in place because that's where the deficit was. The municipal side of the budget has been balanced. It is balanced. The school is facing these cuts because of the increase in out-of-district costs that are not within our control. So that's why we put the cuts there. We said we're going to cut the areas where the deficit is occurring. I understand your thought, but and we looked at things, but quite honestly, we felt that was on the municipal side has been able to stay within their 4%, 4.1 something percent budget growth. I got Carol at the table, and she's trying to mouth the right number. But anyway, 4.1% budget growth. The school has stayed within that on all of their controllable costs. It's been the special education costs, and I'm not trying to stigmatize. We have a moral and legal obligation to these children. But that is what pushed us over the top on these costs.
Thank you. Sir?
Stan Yablonsky, Glen Ellen Boulevard. I'm looking at the school budget, one of my favorite issues annually, and the enrollment throughout Millis schools over the last 3 years has been a little bit less than 1%. So basically, we're flatlining on our growth in students. The current budget is 16.4% higher than 3 years ago, and should Article 4 pass, that would be a 22.6% increase in the budget in 3 years with a flatlining enrollment. Can somebody explain to all of us, especially me, how that can happen?
Is there someone from the town to explain that?
Mr. Moderator, Mark Conroy, Chair of the School Committee. So the largest increase in the last 2 to 3 years in the school's operating budget has been due to increase in special education costs both in the buildings and primarily out-of-district tuitions, which can run anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000 for an individual student, depending on their specific needs and placement requirements. The funding in state aid that's associated with special education, which is called circuit breaker funding, in essence funds about 25% of what districts have to pay to educate students in this situation. The growth of what the Millis budgets have gone up by our contracts, which is what we can control, what we as a school committee in negotiation with the unions, we negotiate what these contracts are. Our contractual increases have gone up about 4%. This year, I believe it's less than 4 in aggregate. And we've done that, and it's been a collaborative effort by the committee and the unions to ensure that we stayed within what the town of Millis can afford historically based on Prop 2.5 and revenue growth. The significant increase in our costs in the last few years is directly related to the increase in special ed requirements and cost increase at out-of-district tuitions. Last year, we were in this position in part because out-of-district tuitions at private institutions were allowed to go up 14%. The state agency who authorizes private school tuitions allowed them to go up 14% because what the private schools did is they took COVID money that they had received and they gave astronomical retention bonuses and increases to their existing staff. And when their funds ran out, they appealed to the state agencies to allow for them to pass a 14% increase on to the municipalities. And that was allowed. And so that put us in the position we were in last year. Last year we had funds available, and at this meeting we voted to put stabilization and free cash to buy us a year to see if any of those other pieces would go. The increase of $1,070,000 compared to the 930 some odd thousand where we're at this year speaks to the fact that the increase we're facing this year is the same increase we were sucking this year. Based on what we can control, we kept that exactly where it was. And that's where the budget increases come from.
Thank you. I'd also like to provide a point of information that the town receives a large portion of their educational funds called Chapter 70 from the state, among other things, and our 2 reps are here. So feel free to talk to them about what's going on here, and if you want some more money. I'm not afraid to put them on the spot, but thank you. Is there any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Edward Ginn, 24 Glen Ellen Boulevard in Millis. I'm a proud new member of this town, been here for 4 years. I'm in favor of this article because I think our children need the education they deserve.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
None
You need
from the
to come
gym.
to the mic, please.
None from the gym.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Glenn Field, also in the new Regency at Glen Ellen. Moved here a couple of years ago and retired, but we've taken on a part-time job at the Clyde Brown School and as a math interventionist. And I just wanted to tell everybody how impressed I am that having worked there just this year, the specialized attention that's given to not just the students that I work with individually who really need it, but it's like clockwork. You have reading specialists, and then the math specialists, and whatever other kind of special education that these students really need. And I've never seen a school that's so into their students like that. And I just wanted to let everybody know what my experience has been. And also my own personal opinion that for the extra amount of taxes that it would cause, having a good school system actually increases property value, you would think. Anyway.
Thank you. Sir?
Hello, Matt Seda, 11 Timberline again. I was just wondering if there was ever a merger proposed to merge our special ed district with a smaller town to offset costs, similar to the way, next door, Dover Sherburne did or whatever. I don't know if that's on the table. It's for our special
Once
ed program.
again, kind of what I talked about before, the budget's being presented now. So these are thoughts that we totally appreciate, but there's been a process to get to this point, and I'm sure all
I'm
this
just
stuff will
wondering
get-
if these outside-the-box ideas have been in you guys' thought. Because what I'm seeing here is, I'm going through this whole sheet with the budget increases, and education is great. We have the best in the state. I actually got some of the best education out of the town of Millis, but what I'm seeing here is complete fiscal irresponsibility through COVID, and we're paying the price for it.
Thank you. Who has a point of order? If you're going to have a point of order, I ask, as respect of me and everybody else, to please come to the mic. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? James, anything in the gymnasium?
Nothing from the gym.
Thank you. This is a simple majority. All those in favor of Article 3, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. Gymnasium?
The motion carries in the gym.
The motion also carries here. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Lohr.
for Article 4, I move that if the town vote to raise and appropriate the following amounts from the tax levy for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, for departmental operating purposes and other town expenses contingent upon passage of Proposition 2.5 ballot. Question under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21C. Purpose, School Department, recommended $1,070,767. Police Department wages, $180,000. Fire Department wages, $95,118. Department of Public Works wages, $54,115. Total contingent appropriations equal $1,400,000. This is a simple majority vote. Finance Committee approved this 7-1.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator, for Article 4, if approved, request the town to raise and appropriate the following amounts from the tax levy for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 for departmental operating purposes and other town expenses contingent upon passage of the Proposition 2.5 ballot question under Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21C. It's important to point out that the override is a town override, not just a school and not just the municipal side, but the entire town. It includes the school's deficit of $1,070,767, which would be for the 15.8 FTE positions scheduled to be cut. But it also includes new positions for the police, fire, and DPW. Why does it make sense to vote for an override, which includes these 4 departments? The short answer is growth. All 4 departments have seen growth over the last 5 to 10 years and has now come to a point where an operational override makes sense to meet demand of the growth for both the town and the school. To put things in perspective, the last operational override of this size that passed was 18 years ago in 2006. There have been much smaller operational overrides requests since then, but none have passed. There were 3 debt exclusion votes. In 2017, Clyde Brown School. 2013, fire truck, the police, and the fire station. And in 2010, the library. Just to clarify, debt exclusions are paid through taxes for specific projects, such as the ones I just mentioned, and when the project has been completely paid, there's no more tax payment for that specific project. With an override, it is a permanent increase in taxes going forward. Also, the Millis tax rates have gone down over the last 4 years. Starting off in 2020, the tax rate was 20.14, 2021, 19.62, 2022, 18.88, 2023, 17.49, and this year, 2024, 16.42. Town growth has been the primary driver of lowering tax rates. More houses and dwellings equals more property tax revenue for the town. Now that we have a reference points for overrides and property tax rates, I'd like to get into the details of each department, starting off with the school. Going back to the previous article, Article 3, we remember last year there was growth in school expenses. There was a traditional salary increase through cost of a living adjustment, step-ups, and lane changes. There was a 14% increase in out-of-district tuitions for fiscal year 2024. Higher inflation impacted the budget for supplies. All these variables combined left a deficit of $938,697 for fiscal year 24. Over the past year, we have been additional growing constraints. State aid. Looking back over the last 9 years, the highest year-over-year increase in state aid was 2.5% in 2016. The state aid for Millis has been trending down over these years, and for 2022, the increase in state aid was 0.4%. And for 2023, the increase was 0.1%. We need to consistently push more for our town representative, James Arena DeRosa and Marcus Vaughn, who are here, and our Senator Rebecca Rausch. We need their support as much as we can going forward. With U.S. inflation rate now at 3.48%, having a 0.1% increase is not helping. Individual educational plans, or IEPs, have grown over the last 5 years. These are students with disabilities that need additional services. The percentage has grown from 13.7% in 2019-2020 school year to 19.5% in the 2022-2023 school year. These IEPs require mandatory services, and with these mandatory services comes additional required costs, especially at the elementary school level. Our focus is our town, Millis, but if you go online and you read the headlines, other towns are going through the same growing pains as us. Franklin, Belmont, Dartmouth, Norton, Wareham. Wareham has a 10% school budget increase. Every town has different numbers and different needs, but Millis has grown both in the town and the school of about 4% over the last year. What actions have Millis taken since 2017 to generate new revenue? Millis has aggressively pursued grants over $7.2 million. This does not include the CARES or the ARPA money, grant money. I know Jim McKay has secured a grant for the PFAS water treatment plant for Wells 1 and 2. Police Chief Sapphire has received various grants since 2017, totaling $637,000. Fire Chief Barrett has secured grants in the past and is currently working on a grant with Bellingham for new portable radios, totaling about $500,000. School cuts. Can we cut other areas in the school budget? School salaries make up about 82% of the school budget, so this is where most of the school expenses are going to. Moving on to the police department. Millis Police Department has requested adding additional police officers to the department since 2016. These new positions are aligned with the growth of the community and have been part of the strategic plan for the department. The service needs of the town has increased over the years. In 2012, there were 8,572 incidents or calls reported. In 2023, there were 16,761 reported. These incidents or calls include house alarms, car accidents, disturbances, domestic disputes, well-being visits, just to name a few. Population growth has been the driving force over the last 5 to 10 years. This town growth has been in several locations around Millis, such as Anthology on Dover Road, Emerson Place on Ridge Street, and the Regency at Glen Ellen. But the growth continues with new developments and locations, such as 1060 Main Street, the old Butta Bing's restaurant location, 1344 Main Street, across from the Tractor Supply. The future growth will continue to demand more and more services, especially from the police department. Not only are there more incidents and calls, but time is also another factor impacting these services. There is a proper process and procedure for every incident or call reported from the time police officers arrive to dealing with the incidents and then conducting the proper filing and follow-up with each incident. For example, mental health illness has substantially increased over the years. The police department has used trained in-house clinicians for on-scene responses, and these cases require proper follow-up care and case information. With these 2 additional positions, the police department will be able to meet the rising demands and have a properly staffed department. Fire department is requesting $95,118. This is requesting a full-time captain/EMS coordinator. The reason for requesting this captain position is to handle several responsibilities such as EMS coordinating, increased requests for permits and inspections such as smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, oil burners, propane, and other inspections. The position will also schedule requests for code compliance for items like detectors, sprinkler systems, oil, gas, and solar installations. This captain position would handle all code compliance requirements, plan review, inspections, and will be able to make the scheduled inspections as requested. With this position, there may be a reduced need for overtime and callbacks during normal shifts. In addition, the deputy chief recently retired, leaving a void for a second-in-command role. So not only will it help with increased demands for the department, but it will also create proper succession within the department. Like the police department, over the years, there has been an increase in the need of emergency EMT fire services from the community. In 2023, there were 957 EMS calls and 771 fire calls for a total call volume of 1,728, or about 5 calls a day. The increase is between 10 to 15% per year. There will be future needs and demands in the coming years. 44% of the Millis population is over age 55. With completed and upcoming projects, this number will continue to grow. Some of these locations will only partially filled, like Acorn Place and Anthology, just to name a couple. As occupancy rates go up, the calls and needed services will increase. Because of this increase in demand, the inspections, training are being delayed more and more because people are on emergency calls. Moving on to Department of Public Works. The Department of Public Works is equally important, slightly more straightforward compared to the other override requests. Millis DPW is requesting an additional employee for $54,115. Just like the other departments, DPW has requested an additional position for many years. A new position would be for the DPW general fund duties in the town, such as parks, roadways, and the cemetery. As the town has grown over the years, the DPW projects have also grown. This position will help complete everyday projects the residents see and benefit from throughout the entire town. My final remarks for this override article is that the town is growing. There is proof in all the 4 departments: school, fire, police, and DPW. The select board and the school committee are working under current constraints and the best possible solution for the town. Without support of the override, the school would essentially be erasing the last 10 years of work getting to the school where it is now. With 7 school cuts from last year and 15.8 cuts slated for this year, the school would be in a very tough shape for the future. Millis is a good town. It's making headlines both on the school front as well as most recently in the Boston Globe magazine as one of the top 10 places to live west of Boston for house prices under $750,000. With that said, this is your time to vote for what you think is best for the town. This is a 2-step process. First, this is through the vote at town meeting tonight, and then followed by a ballot vote at town hall on May 13th. Everyone should have received a card like this that has those dates and information on it. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Lohr. I'm pretty sure you answered everybody's question. There'll be no discussion.
I tried.
No, really. Give the FinCom. Once again, they represent you. They represent the town. They put the best thoughts forward. They spend a lot of time on this. So is there any further discussion? People like to talk about this? Please come forward. There might be 1 or 2 of you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mark Robbins, 58 Walnut Street. I think most people up front know me, but for the townspeople, my wife and I, Joanne, have been residents of Millis for 35 years. We raised our children, Michael and Victoria, in the school system, and they got a very good education. I consider ourselves townies. We're pro, growth and trying to support all the different departments. And just like in our personal budget, I have some questions actually that I would like some clarification on. Just 2 of them. The first thing, when we lost the right of refusal for the Glen Ellen project 5 or 6 years ago, I had something that was printed out from 2018 that said that there would be projected $3.2 million a year in tax revenue that comes in from the Toll Brothers complex. So, and also, by the way, I spoke with a couple gentlemen and a lady this past weekend when I was going through Glen Ellen, and they estimated we're probably getting 5 or 6 million. I don't know if those numbers are correct, but whatever. Looks like about 3.2 should be coming into revenue just from that complex alone. And the second thing that I had done some research on, there was a report that came out in October 2023 from the Division of Local Services, and it's a financial management review for the town of Millis. And the other thing that, the second point that I have a question on is the cannabis impact funds with the CONCAM business that we have in town. And it says that Millis entered into a 5-year host community agreement called an HCA with CONCAM, and the town was to begin receiving 3% of the gross sales after the first date of operation, and an additional 3% local option cannabis excise collected by the state on behalf of the town. Per the HCA, renegotiations are to begin after the 4th year of operations in November 2023. So that was this past fall. Moving forward, it says the existing HCA will need to be renegotiated by March 2024. If ComCan agrees to impact funds, they cannot be a percentage of a licensee sales, but rather on a documented annual invoice of reasonably related costs imposed on the host municipality. Now, here's a statement that got me concerned. While the cannabis excise would continue to be received, Millis officials are concerned and should monitor for the final regulations and the effect on its HCA and the future impact funds. So with that, I just would like some comment on both of those points as to how those revenue streams are impacting such that we still need another, 1.4 million, I believe, or 1.5 million voted tonight on our property tax increases. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scholes.
I think I have them both down. The first one was the Glen Ellen property tax, and that's a pretty easy answer. The Glen Ellen property tax, it is coming in. It's going into the general funds. As everybody has said, we've gone 18 years without an override. The reason we've done that is because every time we need an override, we get lucky. We've stopped getting lucky. That's the simple answer. We were looking at huge deficits in 2018 when Glen Ellen came online. We would have been doing this in 2018 at that point just to fund major cuts that we were going to have to make. The revenue came in, it funded our deficits, we continued on without an override. The money's coming in, it goes into general taxation, and it's used for police, fire, DPW, roads, schools, council on aging, library. It's just part of the tax base. So that's the first question and the first answer to that. So basically my answer is it's in your tax. It's in the budget every day we see it. Second question, the HCA, this gets much more complicated. There are two taxes. There's two revenue streams that come in, and I'm sitting next to Ellen, and she'll kick me under the table if I get this wrong. So we have a 3% excise tax. That tax comes in to the general fund. It goes into free cash, but it can be used for whatever we choose to use it for. That goes on as long as the CONCAM is in business. ComCan is, thank you, is in business.
Free advertising. It's ComCan.
As long as they're in business, we get 3% of the revenue. That goes on forever, and we can use that however we choose to use it. We've used a lot of that for roads. We've used a lot of that in free cash, and it continues on. The other 3% goes through FY26 budget. Yeah, looking at Carol. It'll fund the budget all the way through FY26. So next year's budget will have the money in it. After that, it goes away. That money can only be used for things that we've selected. And a lot of towns have had people that aren't as friendly running these businesses who have really tightened up what it can be used for. So that money is going to go away. That's 3% of revenue also. Renegotiation now, as was read in the piece, we can't ask for 3%. We have to show how is marijuana sales adversely affecting our community. Then we have to ask the provider to pay us for that. It's not like we can do this straight 3%. So we're going to continue to get 3% excise tax until they go out of business, and which I hope is very far in the future. And a 3% local option tax is through this year and next year. Does that answer the question?
Thank you, Mr. Hills. Ma'am?
Nicole Riley, 258 Village Street, 13-year member of the Planning Board. I'd just like to expand upon one of the important comments that Chairman Lohr made with regards to growth in this town. As I suspect most of the people here may not be aware, we have over 250 housing units that are currently in the pipeline for Millis with regards to apartment buildings, 40Bs, private complexes. So while those will bring in additional tax revenue, they will bring, those 250 plus units will bring in the need for more teachers, for more police officers, for more firefighters, for more staff in the DPW so that we don't have massive craters in our roads. To start allowing cuts in our budget, in our staffing in the town, it's just going to get worse in the next couple of years. And I say that as someone who does not have children in the school system. But we are going to be facing more need for staffing in all of those departments. And I think as difficult as it will be for a lot of people, it would be very short-sighted if we start cutting all of those positions now. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Paul Prohodsky. I live at 166 Spring Street in Millis here. I'm a 39-year resident of the town. I just have some questions on the explanation, especially for the fire department, where you're adding another officer for $94,000, yet one is retiring. What happened to his salary? And the same thing on the police department, on the, there was another place where somebody was retiring and we were refilling that position. And I'm just curious what happened to his salary.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Lohr.
I don't know what happened to the previous salary. However, in terms of Chief Barrett has expressed when he presented to the Finance Committee that they will hire within the fire department that captain position, and then they will backfill that open position with a lower salary, newer firefighter. That's my understanding, but go ahead,
Okay. Well,
Mr. Moderator.
As a follow-up to that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So they're going to backfill the assistant chief's position as a captain, okay, and then they're going to hire another person to fill that. But what happened, how much money was the assistant chief making, and where did that money go?
Greg.
Hi, neighbor.
Mr. Moderator, Chief Barrett, Fire Department. So
Address?
177 Spring Street. Mine are the fire departments. So the position was an on-call position, was the deputy chief's position. So he didn't get a salary. This is a new position for us to try to supplement what we need for inspections, help us handle the increased call volume. But it also is going to handle a lot of the inspections. As Ms. Riley said, we have so many new buildings coming into town, and we're doing a lot more inspections. We're missing them because our call volume is also up. So this position is going to take that as well.
Okay.
So we don't have a salary that's going to be supplemented by that.
Okay. I was just looking for clarification on where the money was going.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, I'm John Stedman, 26 Glen Ellen Boulevard, and I'd like some clarification to see if my understanding is correct. I understand what we're voting for tonight is, should the override pass in the general election, this is how that money will be used. That we're not voting on the override tonight, we're voting on how the money will be used if it is approved in the general election. Is that correct?
Two things here. What we're voting on here tonight is to put this in an election. So that's this is the first part. But what is the $1.6 million total is how the money will be spent.
Okay. So this is voting to see whether or not it goes on the ballot next week, correct?
Mr. Moderator?
Go ahead, Ms. Schultz.
I'm not sure that's correct. There's two parts to an override. There's the appropriation where, as you said, we decide how to spend the money. And that's great. We can decide how to spend this money however we want. The next part, within reason, the next part is getting the money. So if we decide that we're going to spend the money as described here and the override on Monday fails, there is no money to allocate. So we won't be allocating. If we allocate it, if we don't allocate it tonight and the override passes, well, that's great. We've just raised everybody's taxes by $1.4 million and nowhere to spend it. So both parts have to pass. Tonight is the appropriation of those monies, and then the override is the collection of those, allowing us to collect those monies.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Schultz.
There's two things I know.
Go ahead.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Moderator, John Fitzgerald, 131 Plain Street. I am troubled by the excessive tax increase that's been proposed, and we are living in a situation where the town voted to increase taxes to build the library. The town voted to increase taxes to build the police station. The town then voted to increase taxes to build the $56 million elementary school that now puts us in the situation where we don't have sufficient operational funds. And I'm worried about the gentrification of the town. The taxes seem to be going up, notwithstanding what the millage rate is. And to have a permanent tax increase voted when we still don't have the report on the feasibility study of the high school makes me suspect that there's a huge tax override proposal coming shortly, and accordingly, I move to table consideration of this override until such time as the feasibility study has been presented and considered by the Finance Committee and reported to the voters at the next town meeting. Thank you.
Just to clarify, when you say table, you're talking about you want to postpone the vote indefinitely.
Table it until such time as the feasibility study for the new high school or repairing the existing high school has been considered by the Finance Committee and presented to the voters at a town meeting. Then we can reconsider another tax override. But I got a feeling we're going to be looking at maybe a $100 million proposal for a high school coming shortly down the pike. And so this proposal should be tabled pending the feasibility study.
If you would like to make a motion to table this, I need it in writing, and then we can debate it, if it's seconded.
I shall do so.
Sir? You don't want to follow him?
Jim Duffy, 343 Exchange Street, 41-plus year Millis resident. I'd like to just point out that municipal government does not work like corporate government. We are the CFO in the municipal government. There is not a corporate CFO that slashes budgets when you don't have the revenues to meet it. They're the people that you present your budget to get approved. We're the CFO. The numbers around the potential ad reno, and full disclosure, I'm an associate member of the Permanent Building Committee, means I don't get a vote. I also happen to be on the Enterprise Commission, which is the Water, Sewer, Stormwater Commission. The numbers, there was a public meeting. It's on YouTube. 100 million, 150 million, depending on what the options are. To fix it with all code, with everything up to snuff, is about 77 million. Those are the numbers. That's probably safe to say 100 times this override. The other item that hasn't been discussed is the Tri-County School impact to Millis, which last I heard was 6 to 8 million. But we don't know where that money's going to come from, assuming it may have to be another override. So I want to make people aware that we're the budget holders, right? Times are tough all over. It's our job to get involved. I would call on our select board to have some forums where great ideas that I heard tonight get discussed. Everybody needs to start coming to meetings to put those on the table. I would also ask our representatives to start a forum that says, here's how we're going to help you and other towns with this, right? So, to that end, I'd like to make an amendment, which I have scribbled in writing, Mr. Moderator. Let me throw it back here. Thank you.
We're taking time. We'll get the motion which is presented.
Thank you. Should I keep going?
I think we should do one at a time before we create mass confusion.
All right. I have more material if I need it.
Excuse me. So I have a motion before me. Okay. The motion is to move to table consideration of Proposition 2.5 tax override until the feasibility study of the high school is complete and presented by the FinCom committee to the voters at a town meeting. Motion made second. I'll take that. I want to clarify something. The only thing that we're going to discuss is tabling this article. We're not talking about reasons why, yes or no, costs. We're talking about whether we're going to want to table this or not. Okay? Is there any discussion on that?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
Mark Conrad, School Committee. Tabling this until, as it's written, would table this until, at a minimum, next May, which is when the project is scheduled to be presented for whatever the project ends up being. It's presented for a vote up or down, just like every other capital project has been presented. That was mentioned tonight, and I've been here for all of them. Any one of those projects had zero to do with the deficit that we're talking about tonight. We could have voted all of those down, and we'd still be sitting here with $1 million deficit. The revenue that was generated for each of those projects was solely for those projects, and that's where it went. It does not go into the general fund. It does not go towards operating budgets. Prop 2.5, right, wrong, or indifferent, I've always believed that Prop 2.5 was a good thing because it provides the residents to choose how their money is spent over a certain point in time, over a certain limit. It doesn't allow for excess spending. On the flip side of that, in reality, you are never going to be in a position to add staff or add new things within Prop 2.5. That's why we haven't added staff. That's why every operating budget in this town has been flat for non-salary expenses for 20 years, because we just continuously make do, and without an operating override, you can't keep up. We've done it for 18 years, and as Mr. Schultz stated, a few of these times in the last 10 years, we got lucky. We were 6 months away from doing an override, and something came up that got us through the next couple of years. Tabling this article right now for a year would be, A, devastating to the school district, and taking the choice away not only from the voters who chose to show up tonight, but also from those who are going to show up next Monday and vote for the override. So vote against this motion, please.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, John
sir.
Fitzgerald, it's my motion. In addition to the excessive capital expenditures, there has been no effort to curtail salary increases of municipal employees over the years.
Once
And
again,
so-
we're talking about tabling.
Yes, and that
It's
was
not-
the
it's not
point that
direct.
the speaker just made, that it wasn't all capital increases that got us to this point.
Correct.
And it is wage increases as well. And if we're in a true fiscal emergency, the FinCom would have negotiated
Thank
with
you.
municipal unions
Thank you.
to avoid such increases, hence the need to
Thank you.
table the consideration of the override. Thank you.
Mr.
Conrad?
Moderator, the salary increases in...
I didn't allow him to discuss that, so I don't think
He
you should
brought it
either.
up.
Huh?
He brought it up and
And
said
I
that
really did not allow him to discuss it, so I don't think it would be appropriate. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator. Hi, Bruce. Pete Ruby, FinCom, 8 Rose Road. The Finance Committee has no authority or no purview on any union negotiations in the town. So it's for other departments and committees, that's their responsibility and their authority.
Thank you.
FinCom has zero responsibility there.
Is there any further comments? Is there any comments from the gym, James?
No, Mr. Moderator.
I do have one more. Yes, ma'am. Please come forward.
Hi, thank you. Tricia Berube, 8 Rose Road. I do have some comments, and I do believe that this tabled motion should not pass. This would cause an immediate impact to the school system. We've talked briefly about the impact that Tri-County will have eventually, but reducing the services that our school offers will push more of our students to Tri-County for services that we will not be able to offer. Tri-County currently offers as many, if not more, AP classes that we offer, and if we can't offer those, our kids will go there, and that will still cost us money. There will still be an increase in our cost of education that we won't have funding for. So if we table this, people will be making a choice for the next school year, and people will be choosing out-of-district choices, which will leave us at a continued deficit.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, so I want to be clear here. The motion, I'll read it again, to move the table consideration of Proposition 2.5 tax override until a feasibility study on the high school is completed and presented by the FinCom committee to the voters at town meeting. Okay? A yes or a yay would table it. A no would not. Everybody understand that? Little head nod? Got that? Okay. All those in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. No. James?
Mr. Moderator, by voice vote, the vote is no in the gymnasium.
And I concur, the vote is no here in the auditorium. Thank you. So now we're back to the article. Would anybody like to talk about the article? Any more discussion?
Mr. Moderator, could I finish?
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Jim Duffy, 343 Exchange.
Could I ask you to just speak in the mic a little more? Thank you.
Jim Duffy, 343 Exchange. Couple comments on a couple things that came up is with respect to the capital projects, we are still paying for those. And maybe the town administrator could tell us how much a year we're actually paying for those capital projects. If we don't have the numbers, it's fine, but it's relevant to, in my opinion, where we are today with respect to the financial straits of the town. The other comment about future growth, well, future growth and revenues should be funding expanded town services when and if they get here and are needed. Back to the CFO part, none of the town boards, rightfully so, are really geared towards we're spending too much money, how do we cut money? not their jobs per se, right? We'd like it to be. It's not. The school board's job is to have the best schools we can possibly have for the funds, right? Bottom line. So I'd like to make an amendment, a motion to amend the article to A, split the article into a school budget and a municipal budget with reduced amounts in both. And if that's not allowed, or then just to have an overall reduction in the overall budget so that we still can help the need, but obviously some cuts are going to have to get made.
Do you have a written?
Yes, sir.
With numbers?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please present it.
I'm not sure you're going to be able to read it.
Well, I got to read it.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
Pete Monahan, 136 Ridge Street, lifetime Millis resident. I was educated in the Millis schools before going to college. My whole family was. My daughter's a teacher here now. I think we have a civic and a moral responsibility to maintain what level we have at this moment in the schools. And speaking about civic responsibilities, we have a civic responsibility to hold our elected officials down front here responsible for less than 1% increase in school funding. If the governor of this Commonwealth understands one thing, it's litigation. Okay? We need to get a consortium of towns together to sue the state to fully fund education. Plain and simple. Thank you very much. And oh, and by the way, my good friend Sam Howie, God bless his soul, told me when I built my house, never ever vote to increase your own taxes, they'll find a way. Well, I don't want to increase my own taxes, but I also don't want the schools to fall apart. So we have to do this and then maybe come together and find a way to extract some more money from the state, maybe come up with some new ideas like this gentleman had up here, and just watch our budgets. Or as James said, get a tougher person to control budgets at the head of the class. Thank you.
One sec. I have a question on your motion.
Yes, sir.
With this, you still want to have the override with but the modified numbers?
That's my proposal, yep.
Thank you.
I prefer to have it split into a school and a municipal with reduced numbers in both, but if we're not allowed to do that, then simply
That's fine. No, I
reduce
got
the
that.
overall number.
We got that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Conrad.
Mr. Moderator, Mark Conroy, School Committee. The idea, I can assure you, having sat through 5 negotiations over the course of 12 years now, the contract increases negotiated in this town are not anywhere near excessive. They are significantly less than what you're seeing unions, especially teachers' unions in the last 2 years, go on strikes for all across this state. The only reason that we collectively have not had to go for an override in the times that we had is because we control our union contracts and salary increases, both on the municipal side and the school side, to stay within the town's revenue that has gone up 2.5% to 4% per year, every year. So that means our contracts aren't going up much more than 4% every year. It's just the math. So the idea, and to state that it is excess spending and our contracts are out of control, is just incorrect.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Linda Sabrowski, 13 Cedar Street. Question, I don't know if we have anyone from the assessor's office. My taxes went up dramatically, even though the tax rate was lower, because my house was reassessed by quite a bit. And I understand that the real estate values have gone up, but is there some sort, I never know when my house and property will be reassessed. Is there some sort of rule every 2 years, every year, or whenever the assessors feel like it? Because that impacts the taxes as well.
Mr. Schultz.
Yeah, taxes, properties are reassessed every year, and I'm going to do the quickest explanation of Prop 2.5 I ever have done. Taxes can only go up by 2.5% for the town. That means across all of you and everybody who's not here, we can only collect 2.5% more money. So if yours went up, and I know mine went up, and I know Ellen's went up, somebody's went down. That's just the way it works. Nobody ever says their taxes went down. But I looked at the roster. I know there's people in this room who had a tax reduction this year because we only brought in 2.5% more money than the prior year. So if mine went up 6%, somebody's went down. Okay? So that's the way it works.
Thank you. So I have a motion. I have a motion to amend and divide before us. Once again, this is discussed. Okay?
Go ahead.
The amendment to Article 4, split the items in the school budget and municipal budget, he did say stuff to read, along with lines defined in the article. Number 2, amend the budget amount to $165,000 for the school and what's that? Oh, I'm sorry. He does write bad. Amend the budget amounts to $675,000 for the school and $310,000 for the municipal side. Is there any discussion on this? Actually, I need a second. Okay, motion made and second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator, Jack Fitzgerald, 131 Plain Street again. I'd just like to point out that there's no need to raise taxes to raise revenue. If you've noticed all the signs in favor of the tax increase, if each family that has a sign proposing a tax increase would pay $10,000, all we need is 140 families, and the budget deficit would be cured. Mr. Moderator.
It's his opinion.
Mr. Moderator, my understanding is that all comments are to be directed to the moderator and that only the person who has been recognized by the chair is allowed to speak.
And you're speaking.
Is that not correct?
Yes.
And I've been heckled, and this is voter intimidation, so I ask you to take control of the town meeting.
Thank you.
And eject anyone who is heckling speakers,
Thank you.
whether they be in favor or opposed to the tax increase.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Mr. Berube.
Mr. Moderator, Pete Berube, 8 Rose Road, speaking as an individual. I am opposed to the amendment as presented. The override has been discussed and analyzed by a variety of departments and committees, Select Board, the school committee, concerned citizens who did attend those meetings, the FinCom meeting. I vehemently opposed an amendment that is arbitrary in nature and just slices off 10% or 20%, I'm not sure of the math that was used for the amendment, but there were dozens of meetings of all those committees, of many concerned, with very low attendance. And I understand people have requirements, but they need to trust their neighbors. Nobody is here enriching themselves. We're doing the best that we can. If you don't like what's happening in the town, do something about it at the appropriate time. But to come up with proposals during a town meeting of 300, 400 people to change things where things have been discussed for 6 months, hours and hours on end, is inappropriate and is unsupportable in my opinion.
Thank you.
Mr. Schultz?
Mr. Moderator, this has been a 3-year solution. 3 years ago, we added 300-something, Carol, give me the right number, but 300-something thousand to the school budget out of stabilization. Nope, out of free cash. The next year, we did 900,000 out of stabilization and free cash. This year, we said, and we did that to buy time, so I'm looking at him now, so that the state could help us with the solution. But we're on our own here, and I'm not prepared to cut half the teachers on that override. I don't want to cut any of those teachers. But I don't think an arbitrary number still is going to result in devastating cuts to the schools. And we can push it off a year, we can do all those things. You don't push second grade off a year. You don't push the year you learn how to read off a year because we want to study it. It's just an excuse not to fund it. So let's move on, vote this override, and get it done.
Thank you. Do you have anything new to add?
I move the question. Pam Wilkie, Sherman Road.
As I stated before, people in line, I'll let them speak.
Hi, Steve Brown, 109 Glen Ellen Boulevard. I've read through the stuff, but I just want to boil it down to make sure I understand it. If the school portion is not to add staff, it's basically to fund increases in teacher salaries and cover expenses.
What we're discussing right now is whether it's about the number. So it's either we're going to reduce the number.
I understand, but I just want to understand what I'm voting on whether I delay my vote, whether I vote for the delay. So it relates to...
With the motion, there's no determination how that money is going to be spent.
But it relates to how I would vote. But it relates to how the money is.
But that's not what's presented here.
No, I'm just clear. It relates to how I would vote on that motion.
But I can't give you an answer. The way this motion is written, it says the school department will now get $675,000. We cannot tell you what Mr. Schultz said and everybody else said that that's going to go to salaries or buy new food services. We can't tell you. All we're doing is reducing the money. The same with the town side. They're going to get $310,000. They could go hire 5 cops. I don't know. What is presented to us is reduced numbers. That's all the information we can give you.
Right. But
we can't pick and choose now.
I thought the school committee...
No, he told you there's going to be problems, but he didn't tell you exactly what's going to happen. He did on the initial one, yes. We can go back to the original number. He can tell you. But a reduced number, he can't.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, Mr.
But
Schultz.
what's being
My question
reduced?
is, I'm sorry, point of order. It's just, so if we vote on this amendment, we will go back and discuss how all the money is going to be spent. If I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the amendment just says reduce the school to this amount and reduce municipal, not even spelled out to police, fire,
Correct.
DPW. So on this amendment, those questions can't be answered. That's not the motion that anybody on any board has put forward. That's a motion that came from somebody sitting in the audience. So
I respectfully disagree, but if that's your
Thank you.
ruling, I can go with it.
You were standing.
Good. I move Pam Wilkie, Sherman Road. I move the question.
Yes. Jim, is there any more discussion from the gymnasium?
Yeah.
Rader?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there is a member of the audience from the auditorium, I'm sorry, from the gymnasium, who would like to speak. He should be in line by now.
Are you from the gymnasium?
That's a heck of a walk.
Thank you for the long walk.
Mr. Moderator, J. Richard Terrara, 66 Orchard Street. The question is to move the article to half.
No, I'd said that anybody had a comment about that, then we're going to go ahead and move it. That was standing, so you were. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I just want to make a statement. I worked for this town for 9 years as a police officer. Milliston Common was a sand pit. We had 4 bars. The police officers were 13 officers in this town. I've been kicked, punched, thrown down. We had a curfew at 9 o'clock at night to get off the street. The fire department, 36 employees were volunteers. For the DPW, no full-time. I see these officers now, fantastic. They're interacting with all the kids, the school departments, the fire department, how they get interacted with all the residents. I can't be more proud of this place. Little League, 15 years of the Little League. I know most of the kids in town. The chief of police was in my T-ball league. I'm on a fixed income. Just made 79 years old, married 50 years. So this week, and thanks. I'm getting a lot of claps here. I vote that we should use the same money that you're using now and go for the whole thing. If I can afford it, everybody else can.
Thank you. Okay, a motion's been made to move this. So once again, I'm going to read the motion. Motion to divide and amend Article 4. Split the items into the school budget and municipal budget along the lines defined. So the school department would get $675,000, and the municipal side would get $310,000. So once again, yes or yay would approve this. A no would not. Everybody understand? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Jim?
The no vote is overwhelming in the gymnasium.
And I'll concur it's same here in the auditorium. Is there any further discussion on Article 4?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
Peter Underhill, 155 Pleasant Street. I'm over here now. Hi.
I'm sorry, the acoustics are tough in here. Yes, Mr. Underhill.
I move the question on the original article.
A motion's been made to move the article. Is there a second? Second. Okay, this is a 2/3 majority vote.
Could I ask my one question that I wasn't permitted to
Sorry.
ask? I just want to understand what I'm voting on. Very quick question.
Was he in line? Let's let the man speak.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you speak, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay, sure, thank you. I'm just trying to understand here the school committee head's remarks. Is the override, is the money in there for an increase, basically necessitated by an increase in teacher salaries and an increase? Wait a second. I'm all for increasing teacher salaries. I think we should do that more. So I'm not against that. I think we should pay our teachers more. So, but I'm just trying to understand, and an increase in the expenses we have to pay for special ed kids, also which I'm for. I just want to understand what I'm voting for.
Yeah. Mr. Moderator? Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I can answer that, I think.
Sure, thank you.
We have union contracts with all of our teachers, all of our DPW, all of our staff. Those contracts are growing by about 4%. That's part of the base budget. We cover all of that, and we've covered that for years. Our problem is the state allowed out-of-district placement for special education children to grow by 14% and then another almost 5% this year. So our schools have run into a deficit, not by anything we control, because expenses were allowed to grow out of control by the state post-COVID. So we have to fund that. Now, you can't morally or legally cut services for special education students. We're now you're not
there, but for the grace of God, go on.
Excuse me. It's through the moderator, okay? Mr. Schultz is still speaking.
So since you legally cannot and morally can't cut special ed services, you're only left with teacher salaries and non-special ed. So if this does not pass, there will be $15.8 school positions eliminated. A lot of them are teachers, a lot of them are classroom aides, a lot of them are special teachers like the TV program we have. So if this does not pass, all of those positions will be eliminated. On top of that, we will be adding 2 police officers if this passes, and adding 1 fire and adding a DPW. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so motion, Article 4. A yes would approve this. A no would not. Everybody's clear on that? What's that? Correction. I have to take a vote on whether to move it first before we can vote on it. I'm sorry. So all those in favor of moving this, voting on it now, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. Jim and the Jim.
The motion to move the question is approved unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, now, got it right.
Now we get to vote on the motion.
And I did declare it's 2/3 here also. You all understand I declared 2/3 to move the motion. So now we're going to go ahead and vote on the motion, which is a simple majority. It's not 2/3. Okay? So Article 4, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Jim? James?
The motion is carried by voice vote.
It is also carried here in the auditorium by voice vote. Thank you. Mr. Lohr, we still got a little business to do here.
All right. Mr. Moderator, on to the sewer. Article 5, sewers.
Yeah.
Are we got order?
We're going to give people a couple of minutes to exit if they choose. Because the next article has to do with sewer, and everybody loves talking poopies. So I want to make sure we're clear.
This is the perfect article for me. This is like the 3 most boring articles. I gotta spice it up a little.
I might win at 10:30 here.
No, I'm not, Alec. I believed in apprenticing for a while or making something. Anybody doing anything crazy? You know what? Oh, it's gonna be worse.
I would ask you folks who are just talking over there to move outside, please.
They all be consent articles.
Have a chance. Oh, like her or something. She's had all the kids babysitting, like sitting here and be educational.
All right, Mr. Lohr,
Are we?
we're ready. Oh, by the way, the Celtics won.
Point of order. Mr. Moderator, point of order.
Yes.
Is it going to still be possible to bring that article back up at the end of the night and re-vote on it?
Yes?
Well,
Article 5?
yeah. Mr. Moderator.
Go ahead.
I have the floor, yep.
You got to put
I
a mic in.
move that the town vote to raise and appropriate from sewer department receipts the following sums to operate the sewer enterprise fund beginning July 1st, 2024. Salaries and wages. All right, I think I'm overriding everybody, but all right, quiet. $290,740 in salaries and wages, $1,340,952 for a total of $1,631,692. This was submitted by the Select Board, and FinCom voted in favor of it 8-1. A simple majority is needed.
Second.
Discussion?
Motion been made second. Any further discussion?
This article appropriates funding for necessary to operate the town's sewer service and infrastructure. It is funded via user fees based on metered or estimated usage.
Thank you. Any further discussion? James?
No discussion.
Civil majority. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Jim?
Motion carried unanimously in the gymnasium.
Motion carries unanimously in the auditorium. Article 6?
Yep. Article 6, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate from Water Department receipts the following sums to operate the Water Enterprise Fund beginning July 1st, 2024. $482,165 in salaries and wages, $139,409 in expenses for a total of $2,621,574. This was submitted by the Select Board. A simple majority is needed to pass. FinCom voted in favor of it 8-1.
Second.
Motion made second. Any further discussion? Jim?
No questions from the gymnasium.
All those in favor of Article 6, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Jim?
Motion carries unanimously.
Motion also carries unanimously in the auditorium. Article 7.
Okay, stormwater. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate from Stormwater Department receipts the following sums to operate the Stormwater Enterprise Fund beginning July 1st, 2024. $257,806 in salaries and wages, $490,076 in expenses for a total of $747,882. This was also submitted by the Select Board. A simple majority is needed to pass. FinCom voted in favor 8-1.
Second.
Motion made second. Any discussion?
Yeah, this is funded by the impervious square footage fees in your stormwater bill,
Thank you.
in case you're wondering.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the gym?
No discussion.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Jim?
Motion carried unanimously in the gymnasium.
Motion also carries unanimously in the auditorium. Article 8?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that the town vote to approve the items as written in the warrant as consent Article 8.
Second.
Mr. Moderator, so these 4 consent articles each require annual approval at town meeting. The first article amends the Schedule A salary plan, which can be found on pages 28 to 29 of the FinCom report, and Schedule C employee benefits of the Town of Millis personnel plan for non-union employees effective July 1st, 2024. The salary plan includes a 2% cost of living adjustment for the non-union employees that currently fall under this plan. The changes to benefits will bring the personnel plan in line with other collective bargaining agreements. The second consent article authorizes the Board of Health to appoint any of its members to another town office or position for which it has appointing authority. The town is required to pass this article each year for the Board of Health according to state law. The third article authorizes the town to use revolving funds that have their own sources of revenue to be accounted for separately from other town funds. These functions are mostly self-funding and may spend their revenues without additional appropriations up to the limits authorized by the town. And the fourth article allocates community preservation funds into various reserve funds as required in the Community Preservation Act for administrative expenses, community preservation projects, and/or other expenses in fiscal year 2025. This article requires a simple majority, and the Finance Committee unanimously recommended approval of this article.
Is there any further discussion on this? Anything from the gym?
None from the gym.
Article 6, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
That's 8, by the way.
8. Sorry. All those in favor of Article 8, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Jim?
All those in favor of Article 8 voted yes and unanimously in the gymnasium.
Unanimous here, also in the auditorium. Article 9,
Mr. Moderator,
Ms. McGinnis.
I move that the town vote to transfer from the Sewer Enterprise Reserve Fund the sum of $137,630 to fund the FY25 sewer infiltration and inflow investigation of the sewer system in Millis.
Motion made second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator,
McGinnis.
the infiltration and inflow investigation is mandated, but once again not funded by the Commonwealth, and investigates and corrects leaks in the sewer system. A simple majority vote is required. The Finance Committee unanimously recommended approval for this article. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Jim?
None from the gymnasium.
All those in favor of Article 9, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Jim?
Motion carries unanimously.
Motion also carries unanimously in the auditorium. Article 10,
Mr. Moderator,
Ms. McGinnis.
I move that the town vote to transfer from Water Enterprise Reserve Fund the sum of $187,000 to fund a lead service line inventory of the water system in Millis.
Motion made second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator,
McGinnis.
this article, also mandated and unfunded by the Commonwealth, tests lead and copper amounts. A simple majority vote is required. The Finance Committee unanimously supports this article. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Jim?
No discussion.
All those in favor of Article 10, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Jim?
Passed unanimously in the gym.
Also passed unanimously in the auditorium. Article 11.
Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $17,000 from the Community Preservation Open Space Reserve Fund for the Oak Grove Farm Trail Improvements Phase 3 project. This was submitted by the Community Preservation Committee, and a simple majority is required.
Is there a second? Second. Motion made and second. Further discussion?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
This won't raise your taxes. This comes from an existing community preservation fund that is put up for this purpose. The Community Preservation Committee does a great job. Oak Grove is a gem, and they've done a great job with the trails, and this will make it better.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Jim?
No discussion.
Article 11. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Jim?
Unanimously approved in the gymnasium.
Unanimously approved in the auditorium also. Article 13.
12.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $50,000 from the Community Preservation Historic Preservation Reserve Fund for the Oak Grove Farmhouse Phase 1 project. This, too, was submitted by the Community Preservation Committee and is a simple majority.
Thank you. Second? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
The Oak Grove Farmhouse is on the historic register. It is in tough shape. It needs a lot of work. This Phase 1 will just fix the roof. We need to seal the envelope before we can do anything else to this building. This will keep it from deteriorating further, while the Community Preservation Committee plans future phases on this. It is an original part of Millis, and this will not raise your taxes.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Jim?
No discussion.
All those in favor of Article 12, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Jim?
Motion carried unanimously in the gym.
Thank you. Article 13.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $291,232 and transfer from the Water Enterprise Reserve Fund the sum of $10,000 and transfer from the Sewer Enterprise Reserve Fund the sum of $10,000 and transfer from the Stormwater Enterprise Reserve Fund the sum of $10,000 for a total sum of $321,232 to fund the following capital items. For the DPW, safety equipment, $40,000. For the fire department, Chevy Tahoe, car 1, $85,000. Fire, portable radios, $26,232. Library exterior building repairs for $35,000. School, Millis Public School server project, $65,000. School department, Millis Public Schools switch project, $70,000, totaling $321,232. And to authorize the Select Board to dispose of old vehicles or equipment by outright sale, trade, auction, or otherwise, and that the proceeds from such disposal be applied to the purchase price of the vehicle or equipment, or take any other action in relation thereto. This is a simple majority vote. Finance Committee approves this article 8-0.
Is a second made? Any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
For Article 13, if approved, request the town to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds $321,232 to fund 6 capital requests for multiple departments for fiscal year 2025. Each fiscal year, the Capital Planning Committee goes through a process to review and prioritize a capital request for each department. This process helps the Select Board determine which capital items will be considered at each town meeting.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Jim?
No discussion.
All those in favor of Article 13, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Jim?
Motion carries by voice vote.
Motion also carries by voice vote in the auditorium. Article 14.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, ma'am.
I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $41,688.57 from free cash into the opioid settlement revenue fund, such sum of money being equal to that amount allocated as of June 30th, 2023 by the state to the town from the settlements resulting from the town's participation in the national opioid multi-district litigation. This was submitted by the Select Board and requires a simple majority.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, ma'am.
This article is authorizing the town to transfer from free cash the amount of $41,688.57, an amount equal to the settlement funds received to date from the state resulting from the town's participation in the national opioid multi-district litigation. Massachusetts has participated in nationwide financial settlements with several companies as part of the historic legal efforts to demand abatement of the harm caused by the opioid epidemic. These settlements combined will bring over $900 million into Massachusetts for utilization towards opioid-related use prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery support. Under the terms of a state subdivision agreement reached by the state and its participating municipalities, 40% of the Massachusetts recoveries will be allocated to said participating municipalities. The total portion allocated to Millis will be $169,209.79 to be paid out in increments between the years of 2022 and 2038. Per an existing municipal abatement payment schedule, all settlement funds received by Millis are required to be used towards the use prevention, harm prevention, treatment and recovery, and support related to opioid addiction. The Finance Committee voted unanimously to approve this motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Jim?
No discussion.
All those in favor of Article 14, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Jim?
Motion carries unanimously in the auditorium.
Motion
in the gym.
also carries
I'm gonna
unanimously
carry
in the
it.
auditorium. And you're in the gym, though. I'm in the
yeah.
auditorium. Article 15.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, ma'am.
I move that the town vote to borrow under the provisions of MGL Chapter 44 or any other enabling authority the sum of $68,816 for the lease/purchase of one police cruiser. This article was submitted by the Select Board, and it requires a 2/3 majority.
Motion made second for discussion.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, ma'am.
This article is authorizing the town to enter into a 3-year lease to purchase agreement for one new replacement police cruiser in the amount of $68,816. The first-year cost of $22,938.67 is included in Article 3 FY25 operating budget. The cruiser will be available for purchase for $1 after the completion of the 3rd year of the lease. The cost of the vehicle includes the prisoner transport containment and lighting, the lettering, computer-aided dispatch software, records management system, CJIS, printer, radio, and other specialized equipment are purchased separately and are paid for by grants which Chief Safoya secures on behalf of the department for the replacement cruiser. The current wait time for this new cruiser is between 4 to 8 months. When Chief Safoya was appointed as Chief of Police in 2016, he implemented a fleet replacement plan which would ensure that the cruisers would be replaced every 7 years to avoid costly and out-of-warranty repair bills for the town. The department is requesting this cruiser to maintain the current replacement schedule and ensure an operational fleet for public safety, and so the town is not burdened with the cost of replacement of several cruisers in a single year. The Finance Committee voted unanimously to approve this motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Jim?
No discussion in the gym.
Did you want to speak, sir?
Dan Kress, 94 Middlesex Street. We've got about 20 cruisers for a department of 18 officers. Could we get a little clarification on why we need additional cruisers this time?
Maybe I could address that. Chief Safoya.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes,
Chris
Chief.
Safoya, 127 Middlesex Street. Currently, we have 9 police cruisers, and the additional cruisers that you probably see out behind the station are out of service, and they're going to be picked up. They've been there for quite a while.
Thank you, Chief.
You got it.
Any further discussion? Jim?
No further discussion.
Article 15. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Jim?
Motion carried unanimously.
Motion also carries unanimously in the auditorium.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $75,000 to fund the environmental study and DEP reporting of areas of the library parking lot and adjoining properties. This article was submitted by the Select Board. It requires a simple majority.
Second.
Motion made second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
During the construction of the library completed in 2013, subsurface contaminants were discovered. The site formerly contained a gas station and a DPW garage area, as well as abutting private properties with garage and maintenance activities. The town remediated its portion of the contaminated soils. Subsequently, however, it was discovered that an abutting property was not released from the DEP's remediation requirements, as the town was not allowed to access the private property by a previous owner. Thus, the site is still required to be periodically monitored by the town. If approved by town meeting, the $75,000 requested from free cash will fund this effort. The Finance Committee recommends approval of this article, subsequent to a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Jim?
No discussion.
Article 16. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Jim?
Carries unanimously.
It carries in the auditorium by a simple majority.
Mr. Moderator.
Articles. Yes, sir.
I move that the town vote to rescind the debt authorization of $711,728 for drainage improvements at the intersection of Village Street and Birch Street, which was approved under Article 19 of the annual town meeting of May 1st, 2021. This article was submitted by the Select Board. It requires a simple majority.
Motion been made and seconded. Further discussion?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
The annual town meeting in May 2021 voted to appropriate $711,728 to design and build a stormwater retention system to remedy regular flooding at Village and Birch Streets. However, due to differing site conditions from what had previously been identified, namely location of a gas main, the project as intended had to be scrapped. No funds for construction were expended, and an alternative solution may be devised at some future date and would require new voter approval for the appropriation. Approval of this action is essentially a bookkeeping function to rescind the previous authorization. Approval of this article will neither debit or credit funds to the Stormwater Enterprise Reserve. The Finance Committee recommends approval of this article subsequent to a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Jim?
No discussion.
All those in favor of Article 17, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Jim?
Unanimously in the gymnasium.
Also unanimously in the auditorium.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
I move that the town vote to petition the Massachusetts General Court to file for special legislation to amend the Town of Millis Charter as follows. Section 3-5, Position of Town Administrator, by adding the following to Article 3, Section 5. 11, shall have the power to approve all payroll and expense warrants for payment of town funds. Such approval shall be sufficient authority to authorize payment of the same by the town treasurer. In the event of the absence of the town administrator, the Select Board shall approve such warrants. If a vacancy exists in the office of town administrator, the Select Board shall approve all such warrants or may delegate such responsibility to a temporary town administrator. This article was submitted by the Select Board. It requires a simple majority.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
This article, if approved, would allow the town to petition the Commonwealth to change the town charter to authorize the town administrator to approve payroll and expense warrants. Currently, the authority resides only with the Select Board. Payroll warrants are biweekly and expense warrants are weekly. 2 Select Board members are required to sign the warrants prior to their release. However, given that there are only 3 Select Board members and they each have many other personal and professional obligations, it can be difficult for 2 members to sign the warrants in the window of time required. This situation can affect timely posting of town payroll and bill payments. The Select Board members can still review periodically payroll expenditures, and there are other checks and balances in place. The Finance Committee recommends approval of this article subsequent to unanimous vote.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Jim?
No discussion from the gymnasium.
Thank you. All those in favor of Article 18, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Jim?
The motion carries by voice vote.
The motion also carries by voice vote in the auditorium. Article 19?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that the town vote to approve increasing the senior work program amount from $1,500 each year to $2,000 each year pursuant to MGL Chapter 59, Section 5K. This article is submitted by the Select Board. This article requires a simple majority.
Second.
Motion been second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, ma'am.
The purpose of this article is to increase the amount from $1,500 to $2,000 for the Seniors Age 60-plus work program. This is a program in which senior residents age 60 or older commit to work a specific number of hours for town departments in exchange for a credit applied to a portion of their property taxes. The credit is currently $1,500 for 100 hours of work. The number of hours worked are based on the state's minimum wage amount, currently $15 per hour. The funding for the program comes from the assessor's overlay account. Therefore, it does not cause any additional taxes. The program is administered by the Council on Aging for Seniors. The goal of the program are to enhance the ability of the town departments to extend their services as needed beyond the scope achievable with current staffing and appropriations, providing quality services to the town at a reasonable cost, and retain seniors in the community by reducing their tax burden. The Finance Committee recommends approval of this article unanimously.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I have one question. Is that the same program that covers veterans?
It is. The veterans are allowed to work, there are 5 slots available for the veterans, and there are 20 slots available for the seniors.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Jim?
No discussion from the gym.
All those in favor of Article 19, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Jim?
Yeah, the motion carries unanimously in the gym.
The motion also carries unanimously in the auditorium. Article 20.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that the town vote to accept MGL Chapter 59, Section 5C-1 half, the HEROES Act, which provides for additional real estate tax exemption for taxpayers who are granted personal exemptions on their domiciles under MGL Chapter 59, Section 5, including certain blind persons, veterans, surviving spouses, and seniors, and to provide that additional exemption shall not exceed 100% of the personal exemption, to be effective for exemptions granted for any fiscal year beginning on or after July 1, 2024. This was submitted by the Select Board. This article requires a simple majority vote.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, ma'am.
This is an act honoring, empowering, and recognizing our service members as veterans filed into legislation by Governor Maura T. Healey to increase benefits, modernize services, and promote inclusivity for Massachusetts veterans. HERO Act provision is to increase local flexibility for veterans' property tax exemptions. Creates 2 separate local options. The first allows municipalities to double the veterans' property tax exemption without doubling all other exemption clauses. The second ties the annual property tax abatement amount to inflation, allowing accepted property tax amounts to increase with inflation. Clause 22, currently 25 Millis veterans are eligible. Veterans with a service-connected disability of 10% or more, veterans awarded the Purple Heart, surviving parents of military personnel who dies in military service, Gold Star families, spouses where the domicile is owned by the veteran's spouse, and surviving spouses who have not remarried, of veterans entitled exemptions under Clause 22. Surviving spouses who have remarried, veterans, as long as their assets whole worth less than mortgage on their property do not exceed $20,000. Clause 22 property tax abatement would increase from $400 to $800 per year. Clause 22E, currently 19 Millis fully disabled veterans are eligible. Veterans who have a service-connected disability of 100%. Spouses where veteran spouses own the domicile, or surviving spouses of veterans entitled to exemptions under Clause 22E. Clause 22E property tax exemption increases from $1,000 to $2,000. The money for the additional tax relief comes from the town's overlay account, therefore not increasing our taxes. The Finance Committee recommends approval of this article unanimously.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Kenji DeBold. I moved here, I live at 3 Helen Lane in Glen Ellen. I moved from California to Massachusetts, never been in Massachusetts. I'm probably saying Massachusetts wrong. But it was one of the reasons that I moved from California to Massachusetts, the clean air, and the other thing was the veterans exception. I did 32 years in the Navy. I've been on a lot of deployments, but I just want to thank Massachusetts and all the benefits they have given to the military veterans. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim, any discussion?
No discussion.
All those in favor of Article 20, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Jim?
Yes, the motion carries unanimously in the gym.
It also carries here in the auditorium. And I must say, hoorah, airborne. Article 21.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $100,000 for the MGL Chapter 41, Section 111F Injury Leave Indemnity Fund. This article was submitted by the Select Board and requires a simple majority.
Motion made second. Further discussion.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, ma'am.
this article is authorizing the town to transfer the sum of $100,000 into the MGL Chapter 41, Section 111F Injury Leave Indemnity Fund for the purpose of paying police officers and firefighters who have sustained injuries in the performance of their duty during the period of their injury leave who have met the insurance threshold, instead of appropriating these funds from the respectable department budgets.
Any further discussion? Jim?
No discussion in the gym.
All those in favor of Article 21, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Jim?
Motion carries unanimously.
Also carries unanimously in the auditorium.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $195,305.36 to the stabilization fund.
Motion made second.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, ma'am.
so this is an article that was submitted by the Select Board, and it will require a simple majority. The town of Millis has adopted a policy to maintain a stabilization fund equal to 5% of its annual general fund budget expenditures. This is to be used for unforeseen and emergency purposes. This article will transfer funds from free cash to the stabilization fund, and this will put the fund at about 6%. This will help the town's bond rating when we need to borrow funds, and it will allow an extra cushion for extraordinary expenses for future town meetings. The Finance Committee unanimously recommended approval of this article.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Jim?
No discussion.
All those in favor of Article 22, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Jim?
Yes, the motion carries unanimously in the gym.
Also carries unanimously in the auditorium. There is a motion to adjourn. It's seconded. Before we take a vote, I'd like to thank you all for participating tonight. This was very good government, so be proud of yourselves. Motion's been made to adjourn. All's in favor? Aye. All's opposed? Jim and the Jim.
All in favor unanimously.
All right, they're already walking out over here.